How do you obtain timber with standardized dimensions? Is the cut wood used directly? These questions will be the subject of this video. Hello and welcome to the Timber Construction channel. Before exploring the substance of these questions, I invite you to leave a blue thumb and subscribe to the channel while activating the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And don't forget to stay until the end for a surprise. Ready to go? Let's go. First, the delimbed tree, log, is cut into pieces called logs. These logs are cut up in sawmills, which range in size from small sawmills set up under lean-tos to sawmills with the most modern mechanical equipment. Small sawmills are often portable. Only a few men are needed to operate them, but they provide timber and jobs for local residents. Almost all the work is done by hand. In small sawmills, the daily output is often less than the hourly output of a large mechanized sawmill. The mechanized sawmill is equipped with automatic metal detectors, a push-button controlled carriage, a complete system of claw conveyors, a set of simultaneous action saws, special devices that sort and drop the logs into their specific compartments, and high-speed stackers. The sawmill can be designed to produce both hardwood and softwood lumber. But how are the logs processed for sawing? The logs are unloaded onto platforms using a lifting crane of the type used by the railways. They are then directed onto a conveyor belt, which transports them to the shed where they are measured. A worker operates an automatic log turner and controls the direction of the logs so that they enter the shed with the smaller end forward, allowing for more accurate and uniform scaling. The logs, still on a conveyor, are taken to the debarker. Different types of debarker are used, depending on the size of the logs. The automatic debarker debarks logs of a defined range of diameters at a set rate. When the diameter of the logs exceeds that of the range, they are rejected and sent by conveyor to a semi-automatic debarker, where they are sent to the cutting room. The debarker is fitted with rough metal rollers that tear off the bark. An automatic metal detector is placed immediately inside the debarking building. Logs with nails, studs, metal bands and stampings or any other metal objects are protected on a return conveyor that transports them to a place where the metal is removed. These balls pass through the metal detector for a second examination before being transported to the saws, where they can no longer cause any damage. The scaler activates the guide cylinders controlled by push buttons, which transport the logs to the sawing room. It also marks the small end of the logs to help the log layer place the log on the saw carriage. The large end of the log is first passed through the saw so that it can be sawn flat more easily. The large end gives the sawyer a good view of the log and enables him to do his job with as little waste as possible. Okay, but are all marbles the same? No, not all logs are the same. We have log cuts, which consist of dividing logs lengthways to obtain the cuts used in the wood industry. In fact, when logs are sawn, we obtain 1. The first cut of the logs. This produces sheaths, planks and boards. 2. Plot cutting of softwood and hardwood species, showing the parallel saw cuts that give cuts called counter dosses, false quarters and quarters, depending on their position in the log. 3. Slab cutting is used to obtain logs of any width and fixed thickness, with a strong offer of false slab cutting, a little false quarter cutting and quarter cutting. 4. Quarter and false quarter cutting is reserved for choice sawn timber that does not deform during drying and has meshes, radii visible to the naked eye. It consists of cutting the log into 4 parts, then dividing the sector by lines parallel to its axis. 5. Second cut. This produces lumber that saves time spent cutting in the workshop and makes handling easier. Let's move on to drying the wood. Drying wood involves extracting moisture, water, from the wood until the specified moisture content is achieved. Properly dried wood is stronger, more stable in use and more resistant to decay than green, unseasoned wood. When it comes to drying, moisture content is expressed as a percentage. For example, wood with a moisture content of less than 20% is resistant to rot. The lower the percentage, the drier the wood. In the presence of warm air, damp wood contracts and dry wood in a humid environment swells. Temperature has very little influence on moisture content, whereas humidity has a considerable influence. Wood can be dried using several methods. Wood can be air-dried, kiln-dried, or both. Several days or weeks of artificial drying are equivalent to several years of air drying. The method used for drying, the moisture loss and the time required for drying affect the shrinkage that occurs in different species of wood during drying. In general, softwoods can be dried more quickly than hardwoods, regardless of the drying method used. Air drying reduces the moisture content of the wood to a minimum of 12% to 15%. Wood intended for outdoor use is often stacked and air-dried. It can be air-dried only, or partially air-dried and then placed in a kiln. In both types of drying, natural or artificial, a gap is left between the rows of wood to ensure adequate air circulation. The practical arrangements for air drying consist of arranging the boards horizontally, spaced apart by pins. To promote air circulation, the boards are raised above the ground by wooden workings, separated by 20 to 30 mm thick pins. The thickest are placed at the base of the wooden blocks over 1/3 of their height. There are two types of dryer: the compartment dryer and the progressive dryer. When timber is sawn, it is generally dried artificially. The wood is stacked and placed in the compartment dryer. In this type of kiln, the wood usually remains in the same kiln until it reaches the desired moisture content. The progressive dryer resembles a production line. A wagon load of wood is pushed through the dryer and passes successively through each of the drying compartments, or drying phases. The most modern dryers scientifically control heat, humidity and ventilation using special instruments. At the start of the process, the air is typically humid and cool. As the process progresses, this condition is gradually reversed. Humidity is reduced and heat is increased until the desired moisture content is achieved. We wait for the wood to cool before taking it out to a place where it will be stored until shipping. Here's an illustration of how the wood is obtained. I hope this video has answered your questions about the drying process and how lumber is obtained. I'll be giving away a book about timber construction to the first 100 people who write to me via the link in the description. Don't forget to leave a blue thumb and share the video with your friends. See you soon.